You probably all read the synopsis already, but I'm going to be talking about Archipelagos in Git, which is just something that we use at Bluefruit to help us out, really. We've found that we had quite a lot of problems when we started using, having a lot of developers working on the same code base, and I'm just going to tell you about it, really. So first of all, one of the major assumptions is that reviewing code's important. So just let me get an idea of who's here. Can you put your hand up if you write any code? Hey, that's brilliant. Good. And, oh, sorry, just keep your hands up for a second and leave them. I quite like this technique. Leave them up if you write code in curly brace languages of some kind. Okay. It'd probably be okay to follow what I'm doing if you don't anyway. Okay. So first, the case for reviewing code. Now, the resolution's quite low on this thing, so you might not be able to see all of this. So I'll just point out some key bits of this section of code here. It's pretty grainy, isn't it? But hopefully some of you can make out this go-to error here. Can you see that go-to error? Everyone see that? If failed, go-to error. That's down here, in case you can't read it. That's when it returns HR. Has anyone had any experience with hreses? Hreses? Com code? Yeah, you poor bastard. It's terrible, isn't it? This here, so the go-to error goes down here, okay? And if you read through here, there are a few more go-to errors. Can you see that, everyone? Yeah? Yeah? Can you see that? Good. And there's another go-to error here. So this bit here is quite interesting. So it checks whether or not there's been a failure with a macro. And then it goes to error down here. Does everyone see that? So it checks whether or not there's been an error. And if there's been an error, it goes to the error down here. What happens if there hasn't been an error? Anyone? It falls straight through, yeah, into the error, where it returns the result. So it always goes to error. And any guesses as to who wrote this code? Microsoft, good guess. Yeah. This is Microsoft code that we had to interact with for a modem. Not much hint of that from the function name. For those who can't see it, fdd create command send dtmf. Yeah, good name. So this is an interesting bit of code that some people here will recognize. I think it's quite cool. Can everyone read this okay? And put your hand up if you can't read it. Okay, I'll just give you a brief. This is a function that returns a domain address pointer, okay, called getDomainAddress. And this is a const cast here, where it casts the pointer type of this section in brackets here to a domain address pointer, okay? And the bit that it's casting so it's casting away constness here, for anyone who's not clear on that. It's a bit confusing. Before it does that, it does a static cast do you see this here? Into a const domain properties pointer type, okay, of this, which is the class that we're currently in, yeah, which is domain properties. Get domain address, which is the name of the function. That's confusing, isn't it? Is anyone not confused by this code? Does anyone in this room understand this code by looking at it? No one? No one understands it, okay. Good. So they also added this at the same time. They added const correctness to another function that has the same name. Okay, does anyone think this is good code? Anyone? Okay. As recommended by Scott Mayers in Effective C++. Okay? This is how he recommends providing const correctness, const safety to an API that you're dealing with where, it's bullshit. Look at this code. This is terrible code. It doesn't make any sense. And anyone trying to understand this, I mean, you call this function, and the function that you end up calling is dependent upon the type that you're assigning the return value to. That's messed up, okay? I'm really unhappy about it. So this is an interesting bit of code that, again, a few other people will be familiar with here. So I wanted to try and show you what userinterface.cpp was like, because some of our guys had to live in this code for quite a long time. And I couldn't get it all onto a screen. I tried to do it the other way around. This is font size 1 in Notepad on my laptop, and I've just had to line up the different notepads. And you can't see the scroll bar. Maybe you can there, but we're about 50% of the way through userinterface.cpp. Yeah. But this is just what happens, yeah, if you don't review code. This is font size 1. It's just lines on my screen. It's terrible code. And it was quite interesting. I had to go back in time to find it because we refactored it away. Oh, yeah. So anyone familiar with MVP? Model View Presenter? Yeah? Yeah? God, it's horrible, isn't it? But let's just say, it's a good way of solving user interface problems, which it's not. What do you think about this? We've got a folder called Terminal, a folder called iPresenter, and then a folder called Model inside it. But MVPs to pull apart these layers, So how can you have models that are presenters? This guy got really confused about MVP and wasn't just using it for user interfaces, he was using it for device drivers. Okay? That's scary. MVP on device drivers. Doesn't work. Yeah, that was terrible. So why pull requests are great, okay? They encourage us to talk about code. It helps us all to discern what is good code and what's not good code, like the other slides. Do you want to go back to that? Everyone cool with that? So this leads to improved habitability, so we're happier coders. So we write better code, which makes everyone happier, right? Because if we're writing better code, everyone's happier. The customer's happier, the other coders are happier, everyone's happier. Okay, so we started to use pull requests because it's the obvious thing to do. So we had a team of 3 people to start off with, all pushing to begin with. This is before we were using pull requests. And this worked fine until we added some more people, and this continuous integration thing baffles me a little bit because of the code reviewing, but it's a separate discussion, I realise that, so I'm not going to do that now. But I will go back to the other slides really quickly. Tap, 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 tap. Yeah. No code reviewing, this is what happens, okay? Cool. Don't want to talk about it, so don't talk about it. Here we go. So we're pull requesting now. So we had a lead developer who sits there and gets these pull requests and then reviews them and then merges them in. And this seemed to work really well for a little while. The only problem with it is that, and we got a bit more complicated because we wanted a couple of people involved in the pull requesting reviewing process. Developers stopped taking so much responsibility for their code. This is a common argument in continuous integration as well, for continuous integration. Yeah, if you break the build, then everyone's going to know about it. And if you've got 20 people all working on that code and you break the build, they're all going to get slowed down by the fact that you've broken the build or your shit code that you've committed because it didn't get code reviewed, and rejected. Okay. I reject that completely. So we tried to do it like this, but the problem became this. Now, you can't read this very well again because of the resolution, and I apologise to all you graphical people for my rubbing out. But so this was a day ago, this is 9 hours ago, this is 8 hours ago, 6 hours ago, 4 hours ago, 4 hours ago, 2 hours ago. This is a real list of pull requests that I got a bit upset about recently on someone's trunk fork or whatever. Let's look at some of these, bug fix selecting a scheduler, binding fixes, product info screens, AMPM box, DMA being available again. Does anyone know what DMA is? Yeah, some of our guys, yeah. It's reasonably complicated. 120 megahertz driver changes, holy shit. Blueberry improvements for large scenario comprehension. And I'm supposed to be reviewing all this and managing a team of people and making sure that the quality is kept up and pushing back on people. And so we created this pull request queue, which my guys will remember. And we did it in Lean Kit, and we had loads of cards, and people had to get into the pull request queue and keep merged up with the cards above the pull request that they were on. And then they get pushed back to the bottom of the pull request queue, and it just became a complete nightmare really, really quickly. Has anyone experienced anything like this in their own workplaces? Hey, hi. It's good, isn't it? So we tried to do something like this, where I encourage developers to take responsibility for their own forks. Well, that was a bit of a mistake. No one really wanted to do it. So we talked about this concept of having a mini blessed. So you have your own mini blessed that you look after, and then pull request your mini blessed. And then you can look at the pull requests in smaller chunks, because they can be pull requests to the mini blessed, which seems like it makes sense. And then hopefully developers who are discerning will be interested in making their own mini blessed and encouraging people to take it. But no, everyone just pull requested to me still. And so it just carried on. It didn't help at all. No one took responsibility for it really. And to be fair, it was a bit confusing. Okay, so this is what Archipelagos are about, and that's creating a concept that just helps us solve that particular problem, which is, what are these abstract things that exist? that we're all pull requesting to. So, an island, any piece of subcontinental land that's surrounded by water. Who looks things up in dictionaries? I really like looking things up in dictionaries. Any piece of subcontinental land that's surrounded by water. It's a bit like a Git branch, isn't it? Yeah? So you've got, with Git, you can branch the whole repository. Brilliant. Love it. But you're kind of working in your own branch, aren't you? And you're not working on their branch, and, whose branch are you working on? Your branch, your little island, okay? So it's just conceptual, okay? Don't get freaked out about it. Archipelagos, sometimes called an island group or an island chain, so a collection of islands. So when we talk about archipelagos at Bluefruit, we're talking about a bunch of branches that are close to each other, okay? Which we represent with a branch. So Matt Veron, one of our team leads, when I first gave this talk at Bluefruit, went, it's just a branch, isn't it? And yeah, it kind of is just a branch, okay? But I'm going to talk about them a little bit more. Oh, wow, that came out well, didn't it? So can you see we've got these green lines here which are representing archipelago branches. This is my first time using PowerPoint, by the way. And then you've got the feature branches that live inside those archipelagos, and the archipelagos get pull requested to this blue thing. Anyone know what the blue thing is? Trunk, yeah, something like that. Me, usually. So archipelagos in action. So we've got a bunch of archipelagos, okay, at the moment. We've got Mr. Bob. Okay, well, so let's just go back a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit about our archipelagos because they all have characters and it will help you all understand why it's useful to do this sort of thing. Okay, so Mr. Bob, and I can talk about them because I know about them. Mr. Bob came into being briefly to deal with some CLI work, I believe, originally. Dom, are you in the room? Where's Dom? Did he not come? This is Dom, so we can talk shit about it now because he's not here. Well, it was Dom and James's, to be fair. But yeah, they did a bunch of command line work in it. It was a great archipelago. It came in, it did its job. There was a huge raft of refactoring that needs to be done. And whenever there's a huge raft of refactoring that needs to be done, it's going to cause a lot of pain for everyone else, especially if they're writing commands. So they went ahead and did that, and it was beautiful. It kept merged up to date with the trunk, or whatever you want to call it. We had Nowhere archipelago, pull request to Nowhere. Yes, funny, isn't it? And it's funny, but it was a great archipelago. You really looked after it, reviewed the code more than adequately. It was detailed reviews and, lovely archipelago. And people in management meetings started talking about Nowhere, just to give you an idea of how much respect it garnered eventually. It really was a good archipelago. Komuro. Jan's over there. Great archipelago. Always very well tested code in it. He rejects anything that's not tested properly. I love Komuro. You can usually be sure that a pull request from Komuro is not going to break anything. Isles of Terror. Interesting name. Has partially lived up to its name, but it did have a very difficult job to do, which was manage a lot of code being written very quickly in a very stressful situation. So we cut Isles of Terror a bit of slack. I'm quite glad it's died off, though. Nabumbu, that's my archipelago. It's currently in quite a lot of use, actually. But, does everyone know what that comes from? Bedknobs and broomsticks? The Isles of Nabumbu? It's just it doesn't really matter, does it? That's the point. These aren't feature branches, okay? As soon as you start naming them after features, you've messed it up. Because you need to share code, okay? And it's not always about the individual features that you're working on. So as soon as you try and create some kind of feature branch, people are going to start merging between feature branches to get those other features. That's not what you want. Because then you're getting this bleed of code that stops you being able to review it properly. Who here reviews code? You all write code? Great. Keep your hand up if it's always reviewed, or 90% of the time it gets reviewed. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. In my experience, every other place I've ever worked for, it doesn't happen. It never happens, okay? So I'm really glad that it happens at Bluefruit. So the World Archipelago. The name kind of gives it away, doesn't it? It tried to do too much, and it kind of died as a result. Alcatraz, he didn't want to let anything escape from it, he said. They have personalities, it's really good. Pisky was an archipelago that popped into existence. You can see it has a lowercase p, a little bit annoying. But generally speaking, the work was very good in Pisky, very well tested. Canary, which is named because after canaries, and Jan Jan's Archipelago, this one, always at the bleeding edge, Canary, so you can be fairly sure that it's got something on there that you want to test. And that's the other thing. We target all these archipelagos in our testing, so it lets you do pre-release testing, meaningful pre-release testing with combinational features that are going to end up released together. And finally, the LAMP, which is currently our release archipelago, in the sense that it's actually the one going out into production. I won't tell you the in-joke that it's related to, because I might not be allowed to. But yeah, the LAMP is to do with magic and genies and things. Right, so there's more, but I just... Oh, have I had half an hour yet? What happened to that helpful person that has gone? Does anyone know what the time is? 1:15. Okay, cool, yeah. So, yeah, 5 minutes of questions. Does anyone have any questions about it so far? Yeah. We still have feature branches, but they're pull requested to archipelagos. Any other questions? Yeah. Well, you don't do it in that order. So you branch first from an archipelago and then work on it.
So how do you pick your archipelago?
You talk to people in your team. So we have sort of small teams-ish, 5, 6, 7 people. If they're not sure, they usually go to the team lead and say, I want to do this bit of work, because the team lead has context, yeah, in our teams anyway, because we have some understanding of priority and what work's going on. So they just come and ask, and we say, there's a good archipelago over there, or go and ask so-and-so what theirs is looking like at the moment, or maybe ask a tester and see whether or not it's actually working before you start working from it. Anyone else? Yeah, you first. That's a very good question, and one that we've had asked a few times. Basically, when you get to that moment where you become blocked by the fact that everyone else is in the middle of something else, and you essentially have a bunch of work to do that is either going to block other people, or you're blocked in the sense that you can't branch from another archipelago to start it. And that's usually a good time to start one. Or if you've got a huge pull request queue in the other archipelagos, because the pull request queues are just, that's going to doom the code reviews, which are really important. Anyone else? Oh, Paul. Yeah. We don't have pull requests between archipelagos usually. There are some exceptions. Usually pull requests go to the archipelago, and then the archipelago gets pull requested to the trunk. But I'll talk a bit more about trunks in a minute. Anyone else? Yeah. Shall I go back to the other code? Well, the thing is, if you have 20 or 30 people all working on the same binary, then it can cause some horrendous problems when people start committing code freely to that trunk. So, like that code we were looking at earlier, there's a lot of other code that people just would commit to trunk. And in an ideal world, you'd hope that everyone would suddenly be brought up to the same level as, well, someone else who's good. But generally speaking, that doesn't happen. And they're always rotten apples. I like that talk, rotten apples. And they just love to write code, and they think they're great at writing code, and they will keep writing code and keep pushing it, and I don't want it. I agree. A multi-pronged approach. Also, componentization is a really good way of helping solve some of the problems. It's harder in embedded software. I imagine it works well for microservices. Anyone else? Okay, that was really easy. So the next bit, I'm going to go a little bit off-piste. So sorry about that. So how does this relate to society? Okay, hippies. Okay, trying to live on islands. Is anyone familiar with this? Hippie communes, yeah? Right, so it's a good idea, isn't it? Get a bunch of people working together, cooperatively, don't need big society, we can all get on. What's the problem? Anyone read any Huxley? Ever read Island? Fantastic book. It has a corking end, which I'm about to ruin, if anyone minds that. Cover your ears or something, yeah. Oh, well, I'm about to... So Island is about a utopian society where people all get together and try and make this work and educate their kids in a better way and bring people up properly. And there's a big problem with that. Anyone guess what the problem is? Who's that? People. And what do people do? Do what? Break things. Okay, so at the end of Island, there is an invasion. Okay? So this is the problem with communes. Okay? Okay? Is that right? Did anyone disagree with that? This is the problem with communes. Okay, so what we're talking about here? This. Everyone familiar with these sort of concepts? Centralization, decentralization, distributed systems? Yeah? It's the same thing. So I think our jobs, if you get involved in this sort of thing, are quite interesting because they give us forums for exploring these kind of ideas and some of the problems that we have with them. And if you're interested in trying to tackle some of the problems with code sharing, and I don't think this works very well. Who was the commit to trunk guy? I don't think centralization works particularly well, especially without control. I mean, everyone's just throwing it in there. And yeah, I don't think it works very well. And I think that whatever's in the center is necessarily corrupt. Okay? And decentralization, yeah, it's a good idea, but when it's fully decentralized like this, it doesn't work quite as well because of this problem. Yeah? And distributed, well, it's a pipe dream, isn't it? Maybe eventually one day. But I don't even know how that works with society or code, to be honest. You get conflicts, you know? This is about a network of trust. I'm sorry about the colors. It's a bit faded, isn't it? So these are the archipelagos, okay? But instead I've redrawn them as relative trust. Has anyone watched Linus Torvalds' video on Git? I know you have, Jan, yeah. It's a really good video. I strongly recommend you watch it. And this is kind of what's going on here. We have a network of trust, okay? And these blue bubbles, again, are the sort of lead roles, okay, where we make releases from. And they sort of have this implicit trust, which isn't really real. And it's perceived trust, and it's related to prioritization within the work that we do and the customers that we do that work for. And it's a very strange thing. And ideally, you'd want to do something like that, where you just release from wherever. We just make our release from whatever archipelago we want. What's the problem with that? Anyone? Come on. Regressions, yeah. You might lose work that you're working on. And also, where do you make the release from? Where's the latest and greatest? How do we know what's been done and what hasn't been done? So this is chaos, yeah? And what happens with chaos? Anyone? This! Okay? They come along and they destroy your island. Okay? Thanks for listening. And this is where we work in Cornwall, and it's great there. And I've got a blog as well, which has some stuff on it, not much. So if you wanted to have a look at that, you can. It's the Agile Dream. If you have any other questions, you can come and ask me them afterwards if you like. Probably not now. Thanks very much.